item 13.
Chair, I'll need to leave at 4:45, just so you know.
Well, we're going to go as quick as we can. Okay.
Is that the local government bit?
Yep.
30 more items, go.
Oh, you've been on the
Wait for the thumbs up.
Commercial break.
Oh, welcome back everyone to the final session of the day. So we'll reopen with item 13, Local Government New Zealand AGM. Now, do we take the paper as read and go straight to any queries?
Yes, please, I think.
And Api was the first one with his hand up, so we'll go to Api.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Fantastic to see a commitment to be sending a member of council through to the conference. Have an enjoyable time and build our networks on behalf of our region. My question is, was an invitation extended to members of the Maori Committee, Maori staff or RPC to also consider attending? As I know that Te Marawatu also meets at the same time and that forum is open to staff, elected members and committee members. Will an invitation be made forthcoming to those groups? Or not to say that they'll uptake it, but I'm just conscious of the fact there's an entire network of people there that would be useful to maintain comms with.
Ages ago, invitations came out to everyone from LGNZ and that entity.
Yes, whether
LGNZ,
it went
but it comes
to
to
members of our Maori committee or tangata whenua reps of the RPC, I don't know. I suspect possibly not.
Not.
Sorry, what was the question? Sorry?
The answer.
Yes. So I think the answer is no. I think with respect to the Māori Standing Committee and tangata whenua reps of the RPC.
As no invitation hasn't been made?
No invitation. So I don't think the general notice about the conference has been extended to others.
Is there still room in the Chief Executive's mind that can that offer be made, assuming there might be someone? I can tell you there's no one from the RPC at this stage.
Right.
But I just am conscious that there is an opportunity there for our Māori networks within this organisation to be able to also participate in that forum.
So look, we have a excuse me, we have a councillor conference budget. Historically, that's been used by councillors, but if the table was comfortable with us extending the invitation, the biggest question, if we pick up flights and hotels and all those sort of things, and I do know that it's impossible now to get a hotel in Blenheim because of the conference. Certainly, I have no problem with extending the invitation. It's perhaps just guidance from the table. If there's comfort with that, then we can.
Well, can I suggest then, through you, Mr. Chair, that we put in place better processes for future opportunities, given that accommodation is going to be an issue, bookings at this time. Blenheim is a bit of an isolated, bit of a challenge to get to in the first place. And while this is a lost opportunity,
Yes.
I would love to see a more robust process supporting our committees to enable them to participate at future opportunities, please.
Look, I think that's a fair point. With respect to your question about staff, so I did extend the invitation to the executive leadership team to attend, and they thoroughly endorsed me attending on their behalf, which I'm doing.
Could I just intercede here and just say that Api makes a fair point. In the past, Api, the invitations was sent to councillors because it was to be about representatives, and I don't think sufficient thought has been given to the Māori Committee and RPC. I'm also mindful that the Chief Executive has got a limited budget. So how about we take up your suggestion to have get a policy, have a think about this and have a policy paper come back to council on how we would handle this in the future.
Much appreciated.
Okay, let's do that to follow that up. Any further questions, Councillor Williams?
There doesn't seem to be a recommendation on Remit 1.
Yeah.
Do with
Or
the,
Remit 6.
That's because those remits were not considered to be within the purview of the regional council.
The territorial, you mean? Well, the revegetation and I guess deforestation and all the rest of it is something that we might have a view on within our region. The fact that in urban settings tree canopies are declining and trees are getting smacked out, and aren't able to be protected by Hastings is something that I thought, as a biodiversity, whatever, we're interested in. So I was quite keen to support that remit myself.
That is fair enough, and if council wishes to see Hanawai vote in support, then absolutely.
A 10-minute speech.
Can I just make a point here? I agree with Councillor Williams on that, and the other one which is missing there is Remit 6, which I think we should oppose. It's the one that suggests that councils have some input to work in Income New Zealand about the accommodation supplement. I am philosophically opposed to the accommodation supplement. Whilst it seems on the surface of it a transfer to help the tenant, it always winds up in the landlord's pocket. And I've always regarded the accommodation supplement system as a means of subsidising middle-class people who own multiple homes, excluding the present couple there. I just don't agree with that. So the more money you pump in, the higher the rents will go. And I just think this is going to add a problem. The other ones I think are reasonably okay.
Does anyone
except the civics.
Does anyone want to speak to that specifically?
I thought, was that one of the ones that didn't pass the muster in the paper itself? There's about 3 or 4 at the back.
Yeah, correct.
They rejected one from Palmerston North, or 2 from Palmerston North, or New Plymouth actually, now I think about that. So I don't even think those 2 were that one was coming up. But even if it is, I agree with Rick if Hanawai was to have to vote for it. Under us.
So that one on this accommodation supplement was not rejected and is up for
That's what I assumed it was in here.
And we didn't provide any advice on it because we felt it was wide of our responsibilities as a regional council. So, but again, if you'd like to direct that Hanawai vote in favour or against, over to you.
Is there everyone share Rick's view, or
It just doesn't seem, I've got another reason, it doesn't seem to have anything to do with us, unlike trees.
just abstain from it?
Core competencies. Remember that?
Would you be happy with that, Rick? We just stay out of that vote?
Oh, I'm okay with that. I'm just personally, I'm opposed to it.
Yeah.
I think it's wrong. I think it's just a wealth transfer to those who already have wealth.
I got that.
It either pretends to aim at the tenant, it doesn't actually wind up in the tenant's pocket at all.
Yeah.
It's a slippery piece of work. So I'm opposed to it. People want to be abstain, I'm happy with that too, as long as we don't vote for it.
Does anyone else want to speak to this, or
We know
no
they
one?
don't. We know what we're going to do.
We'll keep the paper as is. Okay, right, next.
Yeah, I just want to ask Leanne in terms of the process. When I'm there, am I actually able to vote for every single remit, or do they expect only regional council to? Okay, so every single one. Just to get that clear, so that I don't put my hand up and they, oh no, you can't.
So
You're not
the regional included in this one. council is, as the representative of the regional council, you're allowed to vote on every single
Okay.
remit. Yeah.
Give you a device. Yes.
Councillor Foss.
Thanks. Well, actually, remit 2. So staff say basically don't get involved in that one. Have we thought about a Hawke's Bay-wide approach here? Because our friends in Wairau have strong opinions on this, and even our justification of HBRC rates are mostly calculated on land value, but we are doing a rate review next year, and the remit is forward-looking. So not a big deal, other than should we be supportive, because I think Wairau is probably would go hard on this with their rhetoric around pine forest, etc. And then to the same point, remit 5, staff's thinking therefore staff are not in a position to assess the implications of this, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I just not sure how that reconciles with our understanding our own carbon footprint, our own climate change mitigations, etc., and the fact that we've all did a climate change emergency, so we're in this space. So just trying to reconcile that with us, this not being part of our, well, staff don't know how to do it.
Look, it was more a question of our capacity to give this proper consideration. Look, it's a really big remit. Obviously, local government's going to work with central government in developing the overall policy response on climate change. And LGNZ will do advocacy on our behalf, as they normally do, and they'll prepare submissions and what have you. I don't think there's anything problematic about this, is really, I guess, what we were saying. It does seem sensible that there are consistent standards, and it does seem sensible that we engage with government. But whether there are any particular implications for us is just the bit that we haven't done.
Well, can I then ask, just to cut to the chase then, Councillor Ormsby's kind of heard some of our thoughts, and I'll just leave her to make her decision on the day, but with consideration of those matters, that's all. I'm happy
In a
with that.
similar vein, can I just point to the remit for election participation
Yeah.
and point out the obvious dichotomy here that Local Government New Zealand has been railing against central government reaching into its work area and taking more and more stuff away, i.e. Three Waters, etc. And here we have in this remit, it seems, as the way I read it, that we're saying that we're not that good at running elections, and we want the central election agency to run elections in our area to promote things more. They don't say where the failure is, they don't say how it's going to be made better. I'm on the top of it, I would oppose this remit, but someone convinces Councillor Ormsby to support it, well, I'd be happy with that too, but I just found it really odd.
I'd like to put a motion
And for all of them?
for remits 1 to 5, that we support all of them apart from 4. For remits 1 to 6, hang on, 1 to 5,
One to five.
that we support all of them apart from 4. I don't see any reason to go to the Electoral Commission for Hawke's Bay, but that's, anyway.
So I wouldn't see any problem with council taking that course of action. Just on relation to number 4, I guess part of the reason why you might want to support the status quo, which is a duty upon me, is that theoretically, council staff could do absolutely nothing in the absence of a provision like this to promote the local elections, and do the absolute bare minimum, which obviously wouldn't be healthy for democracy. So I think it's good to have a positive obligation on the organisation to do what it can to promote awareness and participation. I mean, it's slightly unusual in terms of putting us into a role that at the national level is performed by the Electoral Commission. But the Electoral Commission doesn't have capacity necessarily on the ground everywhere through the local government elections to do the promotion, and we have council resources to promote who we are and what we are and get participation up. But
I know, but it smacks of if we do some nicer pamphlets, more people will vote, and they don't. Then there's a whole more issues to that.
I personally, I think we did quite a good job last time round, and it wasn't, it was obviously social media, a fair bit of boosting around that. It was articles. It was,
I mean, turnout's under 40%. That's what I mean.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'm proposing that we support 1 to, what I said before, 1 to 5, I think it is, but not 4, and oppose 4.
Okay.
I'm happy to second that.
Yeah.
So we've got a seconder. Api,
Could I get some clarity on remit 4 again? Because with regards to that, I'm conscious of the fact that now that we've finished our awards discussion at this table and approaching consultation with mana whenua groups across our 5 catchments, there'll be a new conversation at a community level for a lot of these groups. And that ability of our staff to be able to encourage people to participate in a democratic process that they have become disconnected from enables us to have a better group and a better drive at providing ward councillors to run for these seats. So could I get some clarity that a no of support would... So I'm a little confused. What I heard from the Chief Executive was, without the provision to be active in this space, we cannot be active in that space.
No. What I'm saying is that without the duty, there is the possibility that a chief executive could decide to do the bare minimum.
Right.
So I'm saying that by having that positive obligation in there, in my view, is probably a good thing, and that's the risk of not having it in there, in the Act.
Thank you for that clarity.
2, 3, 4, and 5.
so I think that means you would go along with Yeah, you'd oppose 4, but you'd go with Martin's motion. So does it? Do you want to speak?
Just recap, just to recap, I'm proposing that we support 1, 2, 3 and 5
There's
and
no
oppose
1.
4. Yeah, no, I've added it to the motion.
Adding.
That's the forestry one, so I'm proposing we support 1, 2, 3 and 5 and oppose 4. And I think...
Okay, and it's that late in the day, I forgot, did I get a seconder? Or
Yeah, Rick.
Yes, Rick.
Rick, do you want to speak to it, or anyone else?
No, don't want to speak. It's clear.
No. So all those.
I'm happy to take those recommendations.
Great.
And vote on our behalf.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Hanawai. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Great.
Affixing the
Can I
comments.
move the common seal, please?
Thank you.
Second.
Neil was first,
We're not there yet.
I'd like to speak to it.
as you've never done before.
Do we need to have a vote? All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Carried.
Carried. Coastal Hazards Joint Committee summary.
It's been superseded.
As read, Mr Chair.
Oh, okay. Any questions? Any queries?
Hasn't it been superseded by a workshop or something?
So yet to come is the more substantive decision coming to the July council meeting. So yes, and there is a workshop in between time. That's right.
My understanding of something, if I could just clarify, Mr Chair, is that the workshop is to address some of the implementation issues that were raised at the EICC meeting around how this organisation would fulfil that mandate, right?
Correct.
And there will be some more work done on actually explaining how the strategy what it actually looks like. So there's questions in that area as well. So I think the meeting actually, although it was maybe a little bit back to front, but it actually brought out some questions. Now we actually know what those questions are. We actually then can workshop on them. So maybe back to front, but it served this purpose. So
This is just a receiver note, actually, Rick.
Yeah.
So
I'm grateful for that workshop.
Okay, well, let's look for a mover and
I'll
seconder.
move.
Thank you, Councillor Van Beek. Councillor Foss, second. All those in favour?
All right.
Against? Carried. Item 16, report from the Maori Committee
Chair.
meeting.
Paper as read, but we have our co-chair for the Maori Committee here.
I wasn't chairing on the day, Michelle was. Is Michelle still there?
Yep.
Yes, she is.
Yes.
Billy, kia ora. Taken as read. Only comment I'll have is that we really enjoyed the LIDAR report, and the committee members put forward their suggestions on where that could be useful for tangata whenua. I see it being quite useful in cultural impact assessments, etc. And and that it was a good hui, and that you could feel the difference with our Māori committee hui, with having the Māori constituencies vote have gone through, and just the general feeling was positive. And kia ora, to move my report.
Oh, hang on. I think we've got a couple of queries first.
Rick.
Api.
Thank you. Through you, Mr Chair, 2 questions to staff. 2.4, Te Tai Whenua o Hira Taunga Hapu Marae have requested a key for access to waterways for customary practices in Mahinga Kai. Can I invite the Chief Executive and the Pou Whakarai to talk with the Tai Whenua o Hira Taunga, and perhaps, I recall last year a discussion around boom management, kaitiaki principles of people accessing the waterways and trying to improve resident access and behaviour in those spaces. I'm wondering whether or not there's an opportunity to align some aspirations in that space, but I'll leave that for you to determine and perhaps pursue if you see value in that. Number 5, the Māori engagement ahead of public consultation on the implementation and execution of coastal hazards. Again, this is more around acknowledging there are opportunities for alignment. There's another sentence in there where we're going to be where we're going to approach mana whenua and what's the word I heard? Consultation fatigue. So I'm just looking for opportunities for us to get an efficient and effective spend as an organisation, but more importantly, to reduce the drag and drain on our mana whenua representatives who wholly, for the most part, work voluntarily. Thank you.
Thank you, Api. Rick, did you have your hand up?
I did. I just wanted to make a comment, actually, but I'll wait till someone's moved the motion. So who's moving the report? I'm happy to second.
Okay, so we've got no further queries. We've got Michelle moving it, and Chair Barker will second.
She can't move.
She can't.
Only councillor can at this stage.
Oh, sorry. Okay. It's late in the day. Can I please? Councillor Ormsby will move.
Forward thinking on the chairman's part.
Exactly.
We'll move the report, and Chair Barker will second. Thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Can I just make a comment, please? Just
Sure.
briefly. I just wanted to say this was the best Māori committee meeting I've been to. I've been to some good ones, but there was a really strong dialogue on issues. And I want to point out to the gravel extraction consent, there was a great conversation between Mike and the Chief Executive about the various issues. And it was interesting how both parties moved together. And I think we've got a workable solution to one of the ongoing problems here. It's not in the paper, but I look forward to James bringing it back to us sometime later. So there was some very meaty discussions went on, and I agree with Michelle. I think it just signals a new dawn, a new era of how we work.
Thank you, Rick. I agree.
Thank you, Rick. Any further comments? No. So all
Oh,
those.
one more comment.
Oh.
Well, I think you're doing well because this is a long day back. My first hui, I went to 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I thought that was bad, but wow. I mean, we're all tired, but too much. That's a hard one for you.
Kia ora, Michelle. Well done for still being there yourself.
We'll have to use both doors when he leaves. Get that head through.
Great.
Bed, Michelle, are you?
So we've got to move. We've got to second it. All those in favour? Aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. So we'll move on to the Environment and Integrated Catchments report.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. We'll just take the minutes as read, and the Coastal Hazards Funding Model item, in principle, we agreed, but needing that workshop and the final decision coming back on the 28th of July to council meeting. And we had community presentations, one notable one around the Marine Cultural Health Program, which I think might be good to come to the Maori committee. It was super interesting, and I probably didn't give my brother more credit than he probably deserved with how well that whole program is in terms of monitoring in the moana space. Cool. And just how in depth it goes to each mahinga kai species. It was fantastic. But yes, and it was a shorter hui. Usually my ones go a bit long as well, so that was nice to finish quite early. Other than that, I'm happy to move the paper.
Okay, and Councillor Williams will second.
You've spoken. I just
Yeah.
wanted to talk all that and suggest equally that presentation go to the RPC, because that's a framework that is sufficiently malleable, even as a suggestion to offer to other rohi as a way that we can bring those monitoring tools into that side of implementation of the Kotahi plan. You know, it's a great piece of work, and it's an offer as I understood it. The other thing I just thought that with the recommendation for the Te Karamu project, it says that we're going to review the Te Karamu enhancement, but there's no outcome of that, and I just thought perhaps that recommendation at number 2 needed to have the words "for further decision by the council" added to the end of it, so that, you know, someone could sit in their office and review that and go, cool, I'm off home. But, you know, it needs to come back to us to look at. It was just a suggestion at items recommendation 2.
That was my motion. I agree with that, whatever the process is with the chairs, forbearance and that, just to force the issue a wee bit, or get it formalised.
So formally I'm moving, I guess, in formal terms, I'm moving an amendment to Councillor Ormsby's motion whereby recommendation 2 has the words "for further decision by council." I don't know if that's the correct procedure,
Whereabouts exactly?
but that's what I would like to
He's
see.
trying to find it.
It's under recommendation 2 to Karamu project update, I would add after the words liaison position, "for further decision by council."
That's pretty much where we landed, because there's some other work going. I support that.
Okay, that amendment's got everyone's support.
right down the bottom.
Great. Any further speakers?
Just a question, number 32, I might be geographically challenged, but extensive invasive weed removal has been undertaken downstream from Black Bridge on both sides of the Tukituki River within the Waitangi Regional Park. Is the Waitangi Regional Park, is the river mouth of the in that, does it go as far as that?
Yes, it does.
What are you reading?
It's more east than south, but it's still there.
It extends, so, yeah. And obviously that estuarine area that
I think you've jumped
joins
to-
the two rivers together is part of the
It's all
park.
part of it.
Point
Yes.
of order?
Point of order. I think you're on the next item on the agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Item.
You're having a shocker, Jeff, you're having a shocker day, eh?
Thank you.
Reviews and updates, and then put
32.
for further decisions by council.
Be singular,
Yeah.
Decision.
for further decision by council. I'm just trying to keep it shorthand, so that it comes back to us, that's all.
Decision, yeah. Thank you. So there it is. So before anyone else jumps ahead again, if there's no further,
I'm happy to move
Yep.
that amendment.
Do you mind
Just
voting?
gone.
Oh, sorry, yes, of course. Oh, he was just looking my way.
If you don't mind, I'll move it, or second it, or whatever's
Yeah.
appropriate, simply because I created it.
that's the amendment.
Yeah.
And then, and all those in favour of the amendment, say aye.
All right.
Against, carried. And then back to the original report, which Councillor Ormsby moves, Councillor Williams seconds. All those in favour of the report will say aye.
All right.
Against, carried. Oh, getting there.
Nearly there, mate.
I
So
was
on,
trying to speed it up, Mr. Jim.
now, yeah, now we're on to Councillor Van Beek's obviously favourite item on the agenda. Do you want to talk
Look,
to
no,
me?
so taken as read and happy to take any questions.
Any questions on the,
It's item 32. Can we go to that?
Thank you.
so we know what we're talking about?
You'll keep.
I had a question on item 7. The question would be phrased something like this: what the hell's going on?
Which
Item
item?
7.
So look, I,
255 water takes that have been identified as requiring work done, 350 moderate and, so
Yes.
is that a pretty significant compliance scenario that I'm reading or not?
so we'll give you an update on that offline, but I believe it will relate to bore security, wellhead security, and obviously the requirement that wells are maintained with some regularity. And following the Havelock North Water event, we've undertaken a significant program of compliance monitoring around well maintenance, and have discovered it's a common practice that once they're installed, not much more is done to them. And so that hence is the comment about industry capability, that they can.
That's the point that worries
So
me.
it's around sealing the wellheads in particular, capping those that are no longer in use, those sorts of things. So we'll come back and provide some further advice on that.
Thank you.
Councillor Curtin.
It was just to follow on from that. They are compliance issues to do with the infrastructure as opposed to exceeding volumes. Would that be fair?
Yes, that would be my expectation.
Councillor Foss.
Yes, and 24, I saw a PR yesterday from the council regarding Clive and the consenting. So it looks like we've lost another season due to process. So Clive dredging will not begin until after Christmas 2022, is that right?
Christmas 2021, so this coming Christmas, so yes, next year.
21.
After Christmas.
After this,
2022.
So what did I read yesterday then? That said it was being delayed because of consenting processes.
Because of the ceiling.
Yes. But certainly the expectation will be it's done next year in 2022,
Yeah.
as opposed to 2023. So not after Christmas. I see. After Christmas 2022. Yes, in 2022. So next year after Christmas.
Which is next
After
year.
the upcoming Christmas,
So
we'll have.
I know we're kind of judge, jury and execution in this
Yes.
space. But when this issue first arose,
Yes.
it was not long after, I think, the election. I can recall being really interested in it, as many colleagues are. And I understand due process and all that, and we were just talking about that regarding the other issue. But is there any way at all that we can help reassure the public that we can quicken these processes in any way? Because basically, for much of the commentary and around that particular issue, which featured in our LTP, we're not going to be able to deliver as they expect us to, which is normally yesterday.
Yes.
And they've lost a season basically, and the Hawke won't be there, again.
Yes.
All that kind of stuff. So, how can you help us there in any way? Because it's
Look, the short story on what's happened here is that our asset management team that undertake this work don't have their own consenting capability. We typically, for a resource consent for anything we do in the asset management space, procure the services of a consent planner. The consent planner worked on the assumption that the 2 previous consents issued for this activity would be processed in the same manner. There was an error in assuming that the landscape had not changed somewhat in terms of the consenting environment, particularly with respect to consultation with tangata whenua. And so there have been delays, obviously, in processing the consent and a requirement that a cultural impact assessment be undertaken. Procuring the services of people appropriately qualified to undertake that has taken longer. Their availability is not immediate. And so we're having to now wait until they're available to undertake that cultural impact assessment, and we can't process the consent until we are in receipt of that. And so we're currently exploring whether it would be possible to parallel some aspects of that to speed it up. But even with that, we're not going to have a consent issued in time for dredging until next summer.
so we're party to it.
Yes.
Because of the processes, we didn't update or upgrade our internal processes to what we now expect as normal. I understand what you mean.
That is correct, and we also went on this winding journey about discharge to land and a whole bunch of effort put into that, and landowner negotiations, etc. And then we had to backtrack and go back to a previous process. So it has been challenging and suboptimal in terms of the process. But what I'd like to assure the public on is that because we are both the regulator and the applicant here, we are ensuring that we're holding ourselves to the same standard we would hold any other party to.
Thank you. We'd expect that. It's just very disappointing.
And there has been a discussion, I believe, in the last few days, a meeting with the rowing club, and the situation has been explained to them.
Can I ask a question about that?
Yes.
No, I might just think about that and take that up offline.
So on that meeting, because on Monday there was a meeting held with stakeholders who have an interest in the Clive River, and I thought it would have been really helpful if we as elected members would have been there, because this is a real issue for them.
Sure.
My inbox is almost full with people asking the question, and there's all sorts of expletives being pointed at us, not actually taking this on board and taking it serious enough. Because their stakeholders, they actually had taken this very seriously and knew that there was actually help at hand, and once again it's not happening. So when there is actually public meetings, we should front, and we as elected members should front.
I think that's a fair point, and I'll take that up with the section concerned.
Api.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. So this is a question to James, actually, and Pierre by extension. Your comments around the hearings process and some of the challenges that you have identified in this particular process, I recall there are elements of that that are familiar with almost every process. So the flare I'm sending forward is a conversation we had amongst the tangata whenua members around the number of hearings we've got coming up over the next 6 to 10 years, and the number of those that are going to require a particular mātauranga Māori expertise. So I'm asking for a paper or a report to be brought to the RPC at a time that fits, that might identify how we could mitigate or address those risks. Otherwise, we're going to be doing a patch-by-patch approach. I'd rather understand, and this is from the tangata whenua members as well, we'd like an understanding of who are those that work in these spaces and how we're preparing for the onslaught of hearings that we expect to come.
So through you, Chair, I had a conversation last night with the Deputy Chair of the RPC on precisely that matter. We're engaged in a national conversation with Kahui Māori and Ministry for the Environment about resourcing and building this capability and capacity. And we have some ideas about how we might be able to do that with some potential funding implications for this council. So we'll bring a paper forward to the RPC in due course.
Thank you.
Any further questions on the significant activities?
Happy to move, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Curtin, do I have a seconder? Councillor Ormsby, thank you.
Oh, sorry, Will, you couldn't see me again.
Oh, you keep getting shrunk down, yeah.
Give me a drink. My questions are on 12, outstanding water body. Just disappointed that the Wairau River hasn't been included in outstanding water body, considering it's the largest water body in Hawke's Bay and a significant tongue of the district. After all, the town's named after it. Yeah, so we're a bit concerned about how the engagement with our tangata whenua reps that were there at the time when there was the consultation. I wasn't present, and their kōrero, as I understand, was that they considered all our waterways outstanding. And then the actual one sentence that was put into the report doesn't really relate to those kōrero. So, yeah, we're considering what we're going to do about that, because it just seems like this big, huge gap is, this huge waterway isn't even not even on the list. So disappointed with that. There's a couple of things in the Northern Catchment, again, that weren't mentioned. There was a really important hui at AFCO, the annual report hui, and I know that Jack London, I think it was, he was present on behalf of Regional Council, but it would be important for one of the local Regional Council staff to be there as well, because this is a significant discharge, point discharge into the awa. So, sorry, my teenager is next door to me, so he's not realising, so he's talking to his friends. So yeah, that occurred, and we did mention to them, I think it's about 4 years till their consent is up, and I did signal to them about Te Mana o Te Wai and the first obligation, and was there any sign of land discharge in the future. And there were a lot of crickets. There was silence. The other thing is, also was in the paper the other day, there was a meeting with the Ōpōtama whānau and Ruawharo Marae whānau, the mana whenua there, and it was around the wastewater consent process with the Wairau District Council. So that matter featured in the local paper, and I think that should have been mentioned also in the Northern Catchment report. Is really important to our community at the moment. So, kia ora.
Kia ora, Michelle. We'll make sure those are all noted. Now, sorry, just before we move this, I better just check. Rick, are you wanting to speak to any of? No, great. Okay, so we have a mover, we have a seconder. All those in favour of receiving this report, say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried.
Chair, I'm on a flight at 5:25 to Wellington, so I'm going to
yes.
literally run.
Okay.
But just to let you know that the billing on Section 36 charges won't happen until the 19th of July, so we are able to have a workshop this week on those matters. We'll come back to you, obviously, on that before then.
Thank you, James.
Journey well, James.
Thank you. Okay, we have no reports from outside bodies. We have no minor items. So that is the close of our
Public.
Oh, so sorry. We do just need to do a quick admin of confirmation of PE minutes. So could I please have a mover that we
So moved, Mr. Chair.
move into public exclusion? Thank you, Councillor Curtin. Seconded by Councillor Lambert. All those in favour?
Aye.
It's carried. Thank you.
Item